it's easy one click away. But I mean, certainly if people have got CDs and recorded them, hand it over and we'll have a listen. But I mean, the thing is, you just got to be open-minded and make sure that you're ready to listen to music that comes from anywhere and not close off any avenues. The best thing could be just around the corner and come from the most unexpected place.
Paul, Pledge, the panel being called for making yourself label ready, and Pledge is often seen as a way of almost kind of avoiding the label situation. Do you find that Pledge actually helps people to become ready for label acceptance?
Yeah, I think so. I think.
Can you explain how it works first? That's what a good idea.
What Pledge does is Pledge brings the sort of artist and the fan closer together. And what we do is we offer the chance for you to sell your music, sell your album, your EP or DVD, anything that's downloadable that you have directly to your fan base via your social networks and your mailing lists. And what we do is we create a campaign with you, the artist, that is really shows what you are as an artist. So the fan can purchase an item or an exclusive performance, something that's really engaging for the fan from the Pledge Music site. So the fan doesn't have to just purchase the music. The fan can purchase something like maybe the fan wants an artwork or a book of lyrics or an exclusive acoustic performance, and the fan can purchase those items rather than having to purchase the CD or the download. And in amongst whatever package the fan buys, they receive the music as a download within that. So it's almost like buying the music without having to buy the music, because everybody likes to stream music or download music. So it's about engaging with the fan in a better way, a much more exciting way. And it's about getting across to the fan who you are as an artist in a bigger and better way. So in terms of, does that help an artist become label ready? Yeah, I think it does, because what Pledge Music does, apart from hopefully generate funds for artists, we also help increase social network numbers, and we also help increase fan base numbers, which I think nowadays labels are looking at more and more. I think not only just labels, I think radio producers, playlists are looking at what artists have in terms of mailing lists and fan numbers. So yeah, so we can help in that way, and I think an artist has to nowadays, unfortunately, not just have great music and be a great artist, but also has to have already following fan base.
That's actually sets up my next question really quite well. So you're hearing that more and more. People are expecting bands to have done, or artists to have done so much more for themselves. Are you somebody who, if you hear something that's interesting, the first thing you do is kind of reach for the computer and see how many Facebook friends they've got, looking back on YouTube, or is it still something else that kind of gets you primarily interested from a label point of view?
Yeah, I think it is all about the music, really. It's about the songs. That would be the first thing. We hear some music or something that tells us about something. The next thing that we would want to do is go see them live. That would be the situation when you go to London, go to them live. But no, it's far from that Richard the computer thing and making an instant decision before the experience what is the most important aspect. It may come up, we may notice that they have a lot of views on their YouTube video or Facebook likes, any other indicators. They're all important and they all help, but it's never going to be the thing that makes the decision for you.
Will, from an A&R person's point of view, if you find a band that musically is really good, but you find that they actually haven't been out there enough, are you likely to go with them and try to develop them in the new environment? Because your artist development seems to have kind of gone by the board. Or do you expect them to take themselves to a certain point first?
I think there's definitely an element. I mean, there is. It's a strange one. There is still development happening within labels, and I think you get less sort of development deals as such. I mean, where you used to have an artist who used to just be giving them a little bit of money to help them out at the early stages. There's a bit of that, but there's not as much as there used to be. I think artists and managers of artists do have to do a lot more themselves and take those first few steps. But one of the great things, of course, is that that's possible now, and it's thanks to the internet that artists can get out there, they can get their music to however many hundreds of millions of people potentially. and that's a pretty cool thing because it means the artists have that direct link with their fans. They've got that engagement. I mean, from a label perspective, I mean, labels will, if the music is great, like Phil was saying, it's all about the music. That's the core of it all. And if there's something there, and an A&R person and the people within the label believe in that music and that artist, then they might not even have a Facebook profile, but they will still be interested in working with them because clearly creatively there's huge potential. So it's not be all and end all to have thousands and thousands of fans online, but obviously it does have that pause.
Paul, could you maybe give some examples where Pledges has got an artist to a label deal? And if you can talk us through the key points in terms of kind of case study of how it worked.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, we've had a fair amount of artists who have gone through the Pledge system and then been signed by a record label or a publisher or a good management company, really. And it's twofold as well. We've had artists who have been dropped from label and then come to us. So in the case of the Blackout, and in the case of From a Friend, and in the case of the Subways, all those artists were without labels when they worked with Pledge Music, and during their campaigns, they were all picked up by publishers and by record labels. And one of the main factors that the record labels sort of looked at is how well the campaigns were going. They saw the generation of the fan base going up, and they also, they saw how excited the fan base was and how much there was still demand for the artist via the sort of comments on the Pledge Music site, comments on the artist's own Facebook site, and also traditional stuff of their gig tickets were going up. They're still playing in front of a lot of people. And then ultimately, the album sounded great. So no matter what they were doing with the new school, no matter what they were doing with using the new technologies, ultimately the label still really loved the music. Now, one of the reasons the Subways, the Funeral for a Friend, and Blackout managed to make the music was by the budgets that were generated via the fans, via Pledge Music. So that's really what engaged the label again back to the artist. And in terms of new artists, through Pledge, it's kind of similar. We've had Sophie Madeleine who came through Pledge Music, who'd never been signed before. She released her own album on Bandcamp herself, and she worked with Pledge Music second time round. And all we did really was enhance what she had started, take it on to the next level, bring it to a bit of a wider audience in amongst the music industry, and she managed to get a good management deal, a record deal with Extra Mile through that, and then she's on to her next phase of artist development, making her third record, and hopefully taking it on further and bigger from there. So it's a case of, as Pledge, we talk to everybody in the music industry traditionally, and if we hear a great artist, we tell the labels and tell the publishers, and they can come and see how well the campaigns are going and how well the artist has been received.
So I think it's probably a good point, Phil, for you to describe to us what you think constitutes being label ready. Because we're talking about it in sort of general terms. It would be quite good for somebody to actually put the flesh on the bone and say, when do you think an artist in the current context is ready for a label?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer specifically like that, I'm afraid, because there are all different size labels, all different types of bands. So there is no sort of threshold at which you must be to begin a very small label and start working with a band we've just started with, maybe haven't even got a Facebook profile, they've only done a handful of gigs. We're a relatively modest size label, but we still often see bands that sort of more of a longer term view of a band's career. They may be with a band for 6 months or a year or a couple of years before they feel that the artist is ready to go to a label. Because at that point things start happening and you want to be as ready as possible at that point.
Well, I know that you just recently moved into management, and as Phil says, management seems to be a significant contributor to being label ready. When do you think an artist should get management, and what help do you think the manager actually brings in terms of getting yourself ready for that sort of hopefully label position?
I don't know, again, if there's a specific point at which an artist has to get management. I mean, to be honest, if an artist knows what they're doing, if an artist has had experience, and essentially it all comes down to understanding the industry, understanding how it works, and if you're looking at labels, to see how labels work, but also just in terms of building a fan base and understanding how to obviously record your music and then get it out there. I mean, there are a lot of artists, thousands of artists out there doing that already and essentially self-managing. But where a manager can come in and be helpful and help to further an artist's career is having perhaps a bit more depth of experience and obviously contacts. I mean, knowing people within labels, radio pluggers, promoters, PR companies, that kind of thing. And often putting a team of people together who can help develop and build an artist. I mean, I think one thing I was going to say as well that's important is, I think that obviously the premise of the panel we're talking about is, making yourself label ready, that idea of, how do you get to a label, how do you get a label to sign you. I think what's kind of fundamental is that artists just focus on doing what they're doing and making the music the greatest it can be and building their fan base and not worrying about labels, because at the end of the day, if you're doing it right, labels will come running. So, and there is a hell of a lot that artists can do themselves with or without management. I mean, I think managers are an important part of it, but there's a world of opportunity that you can go out and you can do this and you can make stuff happen on a daily basis and build your fan base, and that's really important.
Coming back to you again, Phil. One of the most significant roles the label seems to play now is some kind of a cash injection.
Yeah.
Do you think that's kind of the primary role for record label now, just actually bringing some money to bear when it's needed to get the artist on board?
Well, I hope not, because we haven't really got much. The label if it is, and really actually that's where things like Pledge are very useful at a sort of slightly later level actually. Pledge work at that level as well, but no, I don't really think it is. I can only speak from my own experience really, because I've stayed in that size company for the entire time I've worked in music, so I only see it from there, but not really, no.
So what do you think are, we'll talk about make yourself label ready. So what is the contribution that the label actually makes?
Well, it brings, like this is definitely experience, it's a good phrase. I don't know, I tried to give an example. Last night, the founder of our company was in the pub with Steve Black, and just before he left he said, "What record should I take down?" He put a couple in his bag. We've all worked for many years. There's 4 of us. We're we're out often. We're speaking to people all day, every day. So if a band is up to a certain stage, and then we come along, even as quite a small label, you have those sort of 4 people constantly helping you, stepping up, all there.
Okay, so Paul, given that, do you actually spend a lot of time advising acts now to be looking for a label? Looking for a label on their behalf?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first and foremost, Pledge is a music company. It's very important to us, that the artists have great music, and that they have, a business after being on Pledge and on Pledge. So, yeah, we definitely, advise or try to help artists with the next step after, their Pledge music campaign. So whether that be that the artist just needs a distribution deal, or that an artist would like to go to a label deal or a publisher, whatever the artist needs. And if we are involved heavily with the artist, because there is the part of Pledge where artists can fill it themselves and just run their own campaigns, but then we have artists that we call A&R artists, which ones that we work with every day. Then yeah, we'll definitely help set up some label meetings and auction meetings and stuff if that's what the artist wants to do. And but quite often or not, we'll find the labels coming to us asking about certain artists that we've got pledge, because you know, pledge and what we do obviously benefits an artist's business absolutely, but you know, we're not a distributor, we're not a record label, so we very much want to work with record labels and distributors and publishers. We're part of that process, we're part of the business, and we can help enhance a record label's business as well as an artist's business, because you know, we've done 3 campaigns with Pierce Panda now, you know, and so yeah, we can be in and involved, you know.
Well, you talked about it being, you know, largely about the song, having a great song. So, given that songs and publishers go together, would you advise artists to go for a publishing deal first? Incidentally, publishers now do quite a lot of development. Do you think it's a good thing to go for a publishing deal first? So that helps them develop to a label stage?
Well, sort of again, I wouldn't say, yeah, I mean, sort of going, I mean, yeah, if you're doing it right, then publishers will, and you've got the music, you know, the songwriting ability, and that's coming through, then the publisher will show interest. And yeah, I think there is definitely more development coming. Sometimes that initial injection of cash, I mean, sort of saying it's not all about money, but obviously it can help if you're touring around the country. You need to pay for the petrol, you need to pay for the old nine hotel here and there, and you know, sometimes you can't afford to do that without a little extra cash. So you know, and publishers have in instances sort of stepped into that role to help artists, at least financially at the outset, but in fairness as well, actually, you know, creatively as well, and you know, A&R. So I think, you know, publishers are there to help with that. But as I say, labels will, I mean, a lot of labels will, even if they haven't necessarily signed an artist, will actively look to help artists. And you know, I mean, certainly when I was at Virgin, I'd be talking to dozens of artists at any one time, trying to sort of hook them up with people, whether it's producers or PR companies or whatever, and helping them to build their career. Because ultimately, if you can get it to a point where you know you're trying to convince everyone else in the label that you should be signing this artist, if there's a foundation there, then it's going to be a much easier thing to do. So, but yeah, going back to what you're saying, then publishers are definitely filling that role a bit more now.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll just take a brief commercial break for a second to explain to artists that one of the things that I think will help to make you label ready, or one of the things that helps you get to that point, is if you can afford to sustain yourself while you're trying to build up to that. And as a result, I think it's worth making sure that artists sign up for any money that's available to you while they're trying to build themselves up. So obviously the 2 key funding sources that you can get in the early stages are the PRS for music, where you sign up for to get paid when your songs get used. So if you're playing your own songs in pubs, clubs, bars, restaurants and venues, you will get paid by the PRS who license the venues. And the other one is the one that I work for, which is PPL. That's slightly different, because in order to get money from PPL, you need to have recorded something and released it. Now, a self-release counts. Okay, so you can release it. When you go to the PPL website, it says we collect money for record companies and performers. To be a record company, you don't need to be a company, you just need to own your own copyrights. So it's worth having a look at the PRS website and at the PPL website, which is ppluk.com, for those of you who want to have a look, and make sure you get yourself signed up and registered for the various income streams. Talking about money, with Pledge, effectively you are helping artists raise money to get to the next level. What kind of sums, if you can give us some kind of a ballpark of the kinds of sums that a starting out artist can hope to raise through some of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all scalable, really. We sort of base what we think an artist can generate funds-wise by looking at the social network numbers. So look at your mailing list number, Facebook number, Twitter number, and also traditional numbers of how many people you're playing in front of a night. You might only have 500 on Facebook, but maybe you're just not very good at Facebook, but yeah, you can go and fill out the underworld on Camden and stuff. So we take all that into consideration, and then we have a conversation with the artist about what it is they need the money for, because the money can be used for recording, or it can be used for tour support, whatever you need a budget for, you can work with Pledge Music. And then we'll decide whether that's achievable or not achievable, or what it is we think we can do and maybe contribute to whatever it is you need. So you've got to think about the magic number of 1,500 really. If you've got 1,500 fans on Facebook or 1,500 fans on the mailing list and on Twitter and stuff, that's a number that you can definitely start to generate funds from. Because really what we do at Pledge is target the hardcore fan. So we target that fan number between 500 and 1,500 that are really going to want to buy everything that artist does. And we hit those people at a higher rate. So the average spend across our campaigns is £56 per head, which is quite a high upspend. But that's going to be offered quality to the fans. So we've seen artists with, let's say moderate fan bases of 2,000, 4,000 generate great numbers, in five-figure numbers, etc. And then we've obviously seen fans who have got much bigger fan bases generate much higher numbers. It really comes down to how well you know your fans, how engaged you are with your fans, and the fans are with you, and what it is that you offer the fan to purchase, and how exclusive, how exciting, and how much value for money is in it. So, we would never sort of promise an artist who's, say, new, maybe put out their first record and has 2,000 to 3,000 of a fan base that we're going to be able to retire on the money they make on Pledge, or going to be able to tour the world on the money. But definitely we would advise that you would definitely raise a budget that would help you in the next step of your business.
Phil, I know that you've worked obviously extensively with Pledge, but are there other ways that you found that a band can help to fund themselves while they're sort of developing to that point? Because obviously as a label without a lot of money, you must have other ideas for revenue for the bands out there.
Before they get to a label?
Well, even when they get to the label, before and immediately after.
Well, I suppose that the traditional things are still valid. I mean, selling stuff at shows is brilliant, and we always encourage that. So, you may be signed and you have your CDs to sell. You may not be signed, you may be making a demo and selling that. And that can be really important, it still is. And if you put a lot of effort into that, you can do really well. If you don't put hardly any effort, if you don't look interested at all, you won't. So the band goes on to the merchandise stand, engages with the fans, talks to them, mentions they've got something to say, goes immediately after the gig behind the stall and sign stuff. They'll sell 10 times more than someone who doesn't look interested. So there's all stuff like that, t-shirts, merchandise things. As you say, there's the BBL and the RS sorts of revenues. And then, apart from live feeds, there's possible avenues from publishing. Merchandise companies sometimes sign up bands, give advances. There are all sorts of things they can do. I think Pledge is interesting because beyond that, they're all the things that we sort of have known about for a long time, that bands have always done. The thing that is interesting with Pledge is that you see down the right-hand side for any campaign that you look at, it's worth going and having a look. You'll just see a whole list of things that bands do, and it might be a gig in your own home for £300, or it might be
A lot more than that.
maybe handwritten lyrics, or guitar used on this session, here's a picture of us playing. A whole list of things, and there are no limits. You can use your imagination, and I think that's the really interesting thing. That we have, record companies in particular have spent a long time, a lot of money, a lot of energy in the previous decades building up the brand of the band to a certain level. But it hasn't been exploited nearly enough, and this is the start of sort of widening that out and realising all that energy can be used a lot better on any level, whether you're unsigned or a small label or a big label.
I think, in the question of how you finance yourself at any one time, I think just like what Phil said, just use your imagination actually. Do you know what I mean? And what Pledge does is, we focus a campaign around an album or a release, but in between those times, if you don't have an album coming out, but you need to maintain money to tour or whatever, just use your imagination and offer the fan more engagement, and keep offering, products around the artist and around the brand and around the album. So whether that be if you're a photographer or if you can do art or if you write out lyric sheets or something that you think the fan might want to purchase above just the CD or the download or the tour t-shirt. I think if you do that throughout, you can recycle and just keep always doing that, you'll always bring the fans back, and I think that's a good way of generating some extra funds.
Well, do you think that labels are still as good at getting out around the country to see new bands? Or do you think that effectively people actually have to drift inevitably south?
Yeah, I mean, never leave London. That's it. You've got to go to London, otherwise it's not happening. No, yeah, there's other people are always out and about. I mean, every A&R person wants to be finding the next great artist. And to do that, it's not enough just to sort of sit at your desk and see how many fans are, like we were saying on Facebook, whatever. I mean, you need to be out there. You need to see what artists are doing live. You need to see the sort of reception that they're getting. I mean, that's one of the biggest indicators. I think Phil was saying earlier on. It's like once you've heard some great music, you go and you see a band, and if there's 500 people, or even if there's only sort of 100 people who are going absolutely wild, then you think, okay, there's something really special here, something's happening. But I mean, yeah, and like I was saying earlier on, in terms of submitting music, and you've got to be ready for music to come from anywhere. So labels are definitely getting A&R people out all over the country in order to find the great artists, the great music.
And so you'd advise bands effectively to build up a following in their hometown. Because I know a lot of artists that are looking for the big London gig. It's been a breakthrough.
I think being big in your own backyard still is true. I think it always has been. I think it always will be. I think even though that there's all the new ways and there's lots of talk about record labels not developing and so on, it's changed, but it hasn't changed really. I mean, if you're still a great artist, labels and publishers are still going to want to sign you. But it might take a little longer to get there, but essentially it's the same as it always has been. Have great music.
And it's actually, if everyone was just coming down to London, and I mean, there's a point of difference. If you're doing something, if you're making a name for yourself locally, I mean, that in itself is going to be, I think, of interest to a lot of labels. I mean, it's like you don't want everything to just come from the south, or for artists to come constantly drift to London.
And what about things like something like The Great Escape? I mean, in terms of actually getting seen, there's a lot of bands. How do you get yourself noticed if you come to an event like this? Because obviously there are various things. Liverpool Sound City next week. There are various events. Is it good enough just to turn up and play, or do you need to do a lot of groundwork in advance? That's a question for all three of you.
Well, it's certainly better to be here than not be here. That's absolutely true. But certainly don't expect a queue of A&R men at your show just because you're playing. You see at South by Southwest to an even greater degree, where I don't know the number, but there are thousands of men playing all spread out and all out of town and stuff. So I think it's a great experience and it's a good thing to do. Try and make as much of it as you possibly can. Use your imagination, but you still have to do everything else. It's not going to be at the end of the weekend you're left with a choice.
I was going to say, use it as an opportunity to get more fans. Don't worry about the labels. You're in a different city. If you're not from Brighton, you're in a different city. There's potentially a whole load of new fans there waiting for you. So obviously playing is part of that, and just handing. I mean, obviously everyone's handing out flyers, so it can be a bit too much sometimes. But just be out there and look at it as an opportunity to build a fan base.
What I'm trying to get at is there anything else preparation-wise when you come to these events that you can do to make yourself stand out from all the other bands? Because obviously there are loads of bands down.
I don't really think so, because you don't want to do anything too gimmicky, you don't want to do anything too stand out, because I think that's a bit cheesy really, isn't it? So I think it's just what's been said before. I think it's just come and play, and really what will stand out is how great your show is, really. And even if there's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 40 people there, it will filter through if there's been a great show somewhere or something. Because playing a Great Escape or a Liverpool Sound City or Camden Crawl or whatever, even though they're events and stuff, if you come and play London on a Tuesday night, it's just as tough to be seen and to have people come to your show, or in Manchester on a Wednesday night, because there's lots of shows going on. So I think the only preparation you can do before you come to something like this is the preparation you should be doing every day as an artist, which is talking to fans, putting your music out there and trying to build up a fan base, really.
Let me ask you, slightly more obscure question, and that is to do with how artists kind of present themselves. Do you think that the old-fashioned way of getting together some kind of a stage image, stage look is important? I mean, certainly going to South by Southwest, I see a lot of bands who are virtually interchangeable. You know what I mean? There's nothing really to make them stand out. I mean, do you think that's still important, that people actually do something in terms of...
I think it depends on the music. It depends what sort of act you are, really. I think if you're a singer-songwriter, but you come turned up, I don't know, glammed up, looking like T-Rex or something, that's going to be a bit weird, but I think if you're, an art, avant-garde act or so on, and an image or some sort of stage props help, then yeah, fine. But I think, I don't know, I watched Jake Hogg last night, who just, could be any guy walking down the street, but his voice is insanely good, his songs are insanely good, so it doesn't really matter. I don't know, I'm just be yourself, just be what you are, really.
So you actually don't think that the image really makes too much difference, or...?
It can do, but again, I think it's really music dependent and act dependent, really.
We do, yeah. Yeah, almost to the opposite degree, where some of the more successful bands have done. Their own image has been a reason why no one else was interested at the time. And we did keen and cultivate, and nobody was interested in either of the bands. When we first saw them, we said, the music is brilliant, the voices are great, they have lots of wonderful songs, let's do a single. It was only after we'd been through that process, people at the radio have thought the same, and put it on the radio, and then the whole thing started to go up. So for us, almost, when not at all, it doesn't really matter. But that may be different if you were looking at an art like a bigger label had a bigger idea of what he needs to sell in order to be able to take on an artist.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say, I guess a really good example is when I was at Virgin, signed a girl called Emily Sandman, who's got a pretty distinctive image now. And but when I sort of first came across her up in Aberdeen, sort of 4 years ago, what it was, she was just sort of very ordinarily dressed, very big kind of afro, and she wasn't trying to stand out in any particular way. And I think for a long time, it was 2 years of sort of banging my head against a brick wall until I managed to convince, the people at the label, and then they heard these amazing songs, but they weren't quite convinced that, was she a star, as it were, and has she got that kind of artist presence? And I think image was a part of that. I think people perhaps felt she didn't sort of stand up in the crowd, but over the course of having signed her and then working with her to develop a style, I mean, obviously she has a very distinctive style now, and some people might like it, some people might not. But that was an evolution, and it's actually working really well for her now, because she does stand out, and a lot of people do really like her look. But she certainly wasn't out there at the Yellow Tree, I think, up in Aberdeen, looking like that 4 years ago. So.
Well, so I think the question I'm asking then is, had she looked like that, would that have speeded her up in terms of her attracting attention? I mean, from new band's point of view, does that make a difference? Because I think what people want to know is are there kind of shortcuts or quicker ways to get recognised?
I mean, I don't know if that it might have made a difference. Yeah, I mean, it could be if you think. I mean, if the full package is there, then your quid's in. That's fantastic. You hit the ground running. But I think it's pretty rare that it does happen sometimes, but I think there's pretty much always a sort of an evolution sort of process. I think working with labels and with managers as well to develop a look. If you're that kind of artist. But again, you don't have to be. If you're a band or you're a singer-songwriter, sometimes you just dress how you dress. And that's all it's
I think sometimes label expertise will come on board at that point with an artist, and you get the right stylists and the right art directors, etc., etc. So, unless you're good at that yourself at this point, fantastic.
Where would a band look for stylists and art directors?
Well, we don't have many in-house stylists. I just feel like the more successful bands get, the more hits they become. The more dress better and their hairstyle gets a bit crazier and they just it's something that just happens naturally. I think you're right. If you can do something, you can present it from something like the peaking cursor of the stroke or something like that. Okay, that's definitely ready to go. They're looking good. They have a look. They have songs. They're now ready. But that doesn't happen so often. It's more the case that I think that things develop gradually.
I'd like to kind of open out to the floor to get questions from them. Is there a microphone on the floor? Just shout, Horace.
Right, well, I'll shout. Yeah, it's Horace from the MU. I'm just interested because when I used to push bands around in the 80s, record companies, one of the things that you'd often hear was, well, yeah, good songs and everything, but it's just kind of like spinning on that. And I wonder if we're in an era now, because, bands like Kasabian, they sound like a baggy band, or there's quite a lot of artists. Thank you. Hope you heard me at the back so far. I'm not to say it all again. You could argue Amy Winehouse, or Rest of Soul, had a fairly retro sound. Is there such a thing now, something that's out of date, or if the songs are good and the singer's good and the band's good, does anything work now? I've got another if you don't like that one.
I think if it's of a quality, I don't think it really. This is my own personal opinion. I don't really think it matters. Yes, so if it does sound like let's go Stone Roses or whatever, but if it's of a real quality, I don't really think it matters. I think it will cut through. And I think music's evolved, doesn't it? It's just one big cycle, really, it's evolution. So I don't really. Everything has kind of been done, but everybody's kind of trying to find a new slant on it. So I don't know. I mean, I think if it's quality songs, no matter what it kind of maybe has come from or sounds like, I don't think it really matters. I don't really think there is that sort of, well, it's been done before. I think sometimes it's a case of what's been done before, but they're doing it great, so let's take it on. That's the kind of way I would see it, I think.
I mean, I think originality is, people instinctively, I think, do like to see originality sometimes, and that comes into both the songwriting and it can come into the image and everything about what you're doing as an artist. So if you're doing something original and innovative, then I think it can stand out, that will attract people. But I think as Paul was saying, if you're doing something that's great and it's a fantastic song, it might sound like, you often hear about, your chord players, whoever it might be, or keys who are using certain chord progressions that sound very, very familiar. I mean, they've been used hundreds of times before. But if you're doing it well, and you've got that song, I think a lot of it, of course, comes down to the lyrics. I mean, there are going to be lyrics in there. Some people pay more attention to lyrics than others, but I think a lot of times subconsciously you'll pick up on lyrics, and that will be your reason. The song might sound very similar to stuff that's gone before, but lyrically, you might be picking up on something that will attract to it. So, I think the other thing is there's actually been a lot of blurring of boundaries as well over the last years. That people are really experimenting, and I think if you look at the sort of electronic, the sort of dance that's seen at the moment, and the idea of dubstep crossing over with house, with drum and bass, and it's completely melding into one. And I think that's really exciting for both the artists that are involved in it and the fans. So I think everything's changing all the time. And I don't think you want to be out there just being a pastiche of what's gone before. So you need to stand out in your own right. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't be similar to artists that come before.
Given that, why do you think it is that, say, at events like this, it's very rare to find an R&B band? I mean, has anybody seen an R&B band here? Anybody expect to see an R&B band?
Define R&B, that's quite a big genre of music.
Well, okay, let's say a traditional soul act.
Oh, I think there's definitely interest out there in that area. I mean, that sort of music is absolutely. In fact, Amy Winehouse, as you mentioned, sort of referenced a lot of that. Absolutely timeless, undeniable music, and that was music that came from somewhere, really important, contextually and politically. A lot of that, so that really stands the test of time. And I think there is definitely an interest in artists like that out there. But you've also got to be great at it, because I think particularly like soul artists, it's having a fantastic voice that stands out. There's a lot of people with good voices, but having an exceptional voice is what you're going to need. And I I think there's actually, I can't remember his name, but there's a really young kid coming out of the States at the moment, who's about 15, I think, who's being lined up as the next Michael Jackson, but who's coming through with very, very sort of strong soul angle. Yeah, but I think it's interesting.
Okay, so if you had to go for, because A&R traditionally have been looking for the next big thing, what kind of direction do you think things are going?
I think we might have a little bit of a male voice time. I think we've had a lot of females, and we've had a lot of solo artist females for the past few years, which are all great, but I think we might find a male voice or a male solo artist cuts through in a big way, personally. I think in terms of what's on sign, I think I don't really know, to be honest. There's so much of it out there, but I don't really know if it's going in one direction. I think there's lots of different directions. I think the beauty of where the industry is just now is, you can be on a medium-sized label, or a very small label, or a major, and you can be doing some hardcore music, or some soul music, or singer-songwriter music, and be having some level of success. I think that's kind of where we're at just now.
So labels are no longer kind of chasing a particular direction. There's always been a tradition of looking for Britpop, girl groups, boy groups. You think that now there's a much broader base of people looking for pretty much anything.
I think there's a lot.
I think it all has been.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a lot. I mean, electronic music has clearly really come to the fore a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, and I think if you look at the charts, that certainly reflects it, and not just the charts actually, but the live scene, the live basis behind electronic dance music is one of the reasons a lot of labels are so interested, because if they're doing sort of JV deals, 360 deals like they did at EMI with Deadmau5 and Swedish House Mafia, then you're getting revenue streams and you're working with an artist across their entire the whole package. It's not just other recorded music. So I'd definitely say that a lot of labels are out there looking at electronic music. They're focusing on that. But again, I mean, if it's great music, it will stand out. And I think the success of something like the Lana Del Rey's video games last year, or Gautier, those songs came onto the radio at a time where there was nothing else like them, and they just completely jumped out and caught the imagination. So I certainly wouldn't say to anyone, go and make this type of music, because that's what labels going to be wanting to release in 2-3 years' time.
Okay, so your number one tip to be label ready for?
I would say play and rehearse. I don't know, I'm reading a biography of the Beatles, and you just think of them in Hamburg. They're doing 4 to 6 shows in a 7 days for months at a time before they even thought about going near a label. And I know it's a different time, we've been through the whole thing, but maybe we're going back to that. Maybe label time and a bit too early for a while. And, they did more development than perhaps they do now. But maybe bands need to be, have that stagecraft, that amount of songs, be that good before they start engaging with a label. I mean, this band with queues around the block playing every lunchtime in Liverpool. Nobody thinks, these guys, we should put out a record like this band, because people are going to buy it. Nobody thought that yet. They waited till a much, much, much later stage. It's an extreme example. But it just shows you that just by playing over repeatedly, then you will.
Number one tip, Paul?
Don't concentrate on labels. Don't concentrate on being signed. Concentrate on writing great songs, being a great performer, just everything Phil's just said. Don't make it your focus to get a record deal. Make it your focus to be a great artist, and make it your focus to build a fan base.
I mean, I definitely second what both Paul and Philip said, and I'd say the important thing as well about building a fan base is that whatever happens with a label, there's a lot of artists and bands that get signed, and if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, then they get dropped. The great thing is if you've got that fan base there and that foundation when you get signed, if it doesn't work out with the label, then you've got something to go back to afterwards, and essentially you've potentially got a career. So if you want to be around for the long term, build that foundation, and whatever happens with labels, you've got a